Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Fleshgaits. What are they exactly? Where do they reside? Can we kill them or just fend them off? Think there's a grain of truth to these stories.
Fleshgaits are made of flesh. I don't think they are that strong since they try to lure their prey using mimicked distress calls. A gun is the answer.
They are a simple shapeshifter. Unlike skinwalkers and Wendigo, they can be killed with physical weapons. Dagoth has the right idea. They have more in line with scavengers than anything. It will often pick off the elderly, disabled, and children first, as they more easily fall for its biomimicry.
Some seriously messed up shit happened to me and a couple friends a few months ago, and I think I'm ready to tell you about it. Be me, longtime lurker on /x/. Know all about skinwalkers, fleshgaits, goatmen. I think it's obviously all bullshit, but it's fun to read. My friend's grandparents have a camp on a secluded lake in the Adirondacks. They almost never use it. A friend asks me and two others if we want to go. We say yes, we're in high school, and we want to get shit-faced. Go up to camp. It's a small cabin right on the lake. It's winter. This winter is warm and really shitty. There's no snow for snowmobiling. Lake isn't even frozen. Nobody is at any of the other camps. We've got the entire lake to ourselves. Around 6 we start drinking. It's already dark because the days are short. Light a fire. Friend's cabin doesn't have plumbing. If we have to shit, there's an outhouse about 100 feet back. Friend goes to take a shit, we're all buzzed and we hardly notice. I'm done greentexting now because it's a pain in the ass and this is a long story. My friend came back from the outhouse. It seemed like he had been gone a long time. He sat down next to the fire with us. It felt like there was something hanging in the air, and I was getting really weird gut feelings. I felt like I was being watched. I looked out into the woods behind the outhouse and a shiver went down my spine. Something just felt weird. I looked at my friend who had just been at the outhouse. He was just sitting, staring into the fire. My other friends were talking and laughing. Then he said the fire looked like it was dying, and he asked if anyone wanted to help him get some firewood. This scared the shit out of me. I couldn't help but think about Fleshgaits. I felt like a moron for thinking that he could be a Fleshgait, and I didn't want to look like an idiot. But I was scared shitless, and I couldn't help myself. I started asking him questions like what's his dog's name and what street does he live on. He asked me why I was asking him these questions and thought I was being really weird, but he eventually correctly answered all of them. My friends were making fun of me for asking dumb and random questions, so I told them all about fleshgaits, skinwalkers, and goatmen. They thought it was stupid, but it made for some good campfire scary stories. The whole time, though, I couldn't shake that weird, creepy feeling. In fact, it was only getting stronger. I kept looking out into the trees, and every time I did, I would feel almost nauseous. I asked my friends if they felt weird at all, but they thought that I was joking around trying to scare them. About an hour later, we were all pretty drunk. We weren't shit-faced yet, but I had drank enough to make me forget about the creepy feeling I was having. We were still sitting around the fire talking when we heard a screeching sound echo through the woods. It wasn't an animal. You could just tell that it was a sound no animal could possibly make. I was absolutely bone-chilling. The screech came from the woods really close to our camp, and we could hear it echoing way back into the forest. I can't describe with words what the screech sounded like, but it was just evil and horrifying, and it sent chills down my spine and through my entire body. My vision started to blur, and I realized that my eyes were watering. We all looked at each other. Everyone had heard it. I said that some messed up shit was probably out there and we should get inside. Nobody disagreed, and we took all our shit into the cabin and locked the door. I pushed the couch in front of the door just to be extra safe. There was only one window in the cabin and I covered it up with a blanket. Whatever was out there, I sure as shit didn't want to see it. For the next 15 minutes or so, we sat in the cabin. No one was drinking anymore. Soon, the terror we felt started to fade away. We started cracking jokes and thinking that it might have just been an animal after all. I had to pee, but I still didn't want to go outside, so I peed into a beer bottle. Everyone kept asking me about skinwalkers and Fleshgaits, so I told them a little more about them. We came up with a code word to say to prove that we were ourselves. I also came up with another idea. I gave everyone a piece of duct tape to put on the back of their hand. If anything was about to happen to them, I told them to take the tape off their hand. Then, if one of them showed up without their tape, we would know that it wasn't really them. We got talking and laughing again, thinking we were all just scared little wussies and making fun of ourselves for having a panic attack over a noise in the woods. It seemed like the party was back on, and I thought I heard something outside. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid, but I heard it again. I told everyone to shut up and we all strained to listen. There were definitely multiple things rustling around outside the cabin. We sat listening. We were getting really, really scared now. Everyone was dead silent and we were just listening. Then all of a sudden, something knocked on the door. The feeling I felt when I heard that knock was unlike anything I had ever felt before. I was literally frozen in terror. My eyes were watering and I couldn't move. Then we heard a voice. It sounded like a child's voice and it said, "Help, let me in." But it had no inflection. It was completely monotone. I wanted to throw up. I felt the way that an animal must feel when it's being stalked by a predator. But this was worse because it was unknown and so unnatural. Just typing this is making my eyes water and I keep having to stand up and walk around. I'm not a big spiritual person, and I don't necessarily believe in evil, but this thing was evil. I could just feel it. My friends and I didn't move and didn't say a word. It kept knocking and it repeated, "Help, let me in." It sounded exactly the same way it had when it said it the first time, like it was just a recording being played back. The rest of the night was absolute hell. It just kept knocking and repeating that phrase over and over again for hours and hours. I had the most awful feeling of terror and dread the whole time. No one so much as closed their eyes. We started to whisper to each other and came up with a plan. We had some knives with us, but besides that, we were unarmed. We slowly and quietly packed up our stuff and waited for the sun to come up. This thing never stopped knocking on the door. Every once in a while, it would slam its entire body against the door, trying to break it down. We were terrified that it would break. It felt like we were being held prisoner, and I just wanted more than anything to get the hell out of there. When the sun came up, the knocking stopped. It was quiet outside of the cabin. We waited for a while to make sure. Then we flung open the door and booked it to the car. We peeled out of there and never looked back. It's been a few months and we still haven't talked about it. It was extremely traumatic though, and it messed me up. I still have trouble sleeping, and sometimes I'll start panicking for no reason. But I can't tell you how amazing it feels to be in my house and away from there. I wouldn't go back for $1 billion. Typing this all out has made me feel a lot better, and I think I'm going to start talking to people about what happened, because it's not good to keep stuff like this bottled up. I don't know what was out there. I don't know if it was a skinwalker, or a Fleshgait, or a Wendigo, or some other fucked up thing. If anyone thinks they know what the hell happened, I'd like to hear it.
I felt like that before, to the point that I nearly didn't post anything. It's not a physical or mental feeling, just like your soul becomes open and accepting, as is your nature. Physical space is controlled by spirit, like your cabin that kept you safe. So was this thing's space its own. You did good, man. Just be careful about who you open to about this kind of stuff. I'd like to theorize more, but you know how it is. We are weak.
Okay, so I live in a more rural part of Missouri, and I have actually seen one of these things. I have been told by people who are well read on the subject that what I saw was a Fleshgait. Summer of 2016, Eastern Missouri, about 10 p.m. Be me, walking home from a neighborhood friend's house. Hilly, wooded, rural area. Walking in the stretch of neighborhood with no streetlights, only shitty porch lights to light the way. Hear someone banging, breaking into a garage door behind me. Turn thinking it might be a meth head trying to break into a garage door, and I'm about to yell at him. Stop. I am frozen by what I see. See pale skinny naked man, as tall as the garage door. Pic related is basically what I saw. stops tampering with it when I look, like it can feel me staring at it. Does an about face turn and looks around. I see these huge black eyes on this small head, looking in my direction, soulless, colorless eyes. It looks straight past me down the road, never staring directly at me. Does a right face turn and quickly walks to the back of the house. At this point, I am terrified. I run home as fast as I can. What usually takes about a 5-minute walk, I cut down to a 1-minute sprint. I get home, slam my door shut, and collapse on the ground from exhaustion. Now that I think back on it, had it not been for that one house I was near not replacing its porch light, it would have seen and killed me.
And yes, I saw one. It was pretty terrible. I personally do not call them Fleshgait, but same creature regardless.
Tell me what happened. I want to know. How dangerous did it seem, and how would you go about bagging one, if you're comfortable with talking about that? I know a lot of people don't want to talk about how to bag certain things out of fear of drawing their ire.
I really should make a Greentext of my first experience. It gets tiring typing it over and over, so I'll give you a simplified rundown. Be me. Friend and I decided to spend a night out drinking. Not of legal age yet, so we find somewhere secluded at night. On my own block, an unfinished neighborhood. My side of town is close to a river and very dark at night. Pull into the neighborhood. Immediately I feel uneasy as soon as we turn. Park right next to a creek and woodline. Deep feeling of dread, indescribable. I look behind us, parked backwards. See disgustingly pale white skin, looks like dry old leather. Didn't see any features, just a form of this weird skin about 10 feet behind us. After 15 seconds of shocked silence, I panicked and yelled at my friend, "Drive, just drive!" As we are pulling away, I look behind us the entire time. I shit you not. For literally 2 blinks of an eye, I see this skinny thing running on all fours. As we pull onto a main street, the weight of what was going on hit us. Friend says he saw one crouching on the other side. We were only parked for 5 minutes. We are freaking out and drive to Walmart for safety. Swear to God this thing is following us down the road, and my friend sees it chasing us. We park at the Walmart. Me and friend both burst into tears and laughed maniacally several times. We parked facing a dark road. See the thing in the bushes about 300 feet in front of us. Panic again. Watch it for like 30 minutes. Calm down. Talk again. Cry and laugh again. Decided to leave to the 24/7 store to grab water. As we leave, we stop at a red light. It's now around 2:30. Friend says he sees something in the wooded grove to our right. I look. Eyes adjust. I lock eyes with the damned thing. It's hiding behind a tree peeking at us. Its eyes are empty pits where gray turned to black like a gradient. I couldn't look away. The fear was so animalistic and profound, the adrenaline rush was instant and overwhelming. It's mental agony just looking into its eyes. I talk at it, and finally start praying at it. After about a minute of pure mental hell, I tell my friend to run the red light. As soon as I physically cannot look into its eyes, I burst into uncontrollable tears. I rarely ever cry, and this was ugly crying. Rivers of tears for like 30 seconds. Sleep the rest of the night in a parking lot in the downtown. While at Walmart, I tried taking pictures, pic-related, but the quality is horrible. This is the one picture that came back with something at all, a well-hidden pair of eyes at the focal point of the picture. When we reviewed the pictures after that night, and I saw it, my hairs raised up on end. It looked exactly like the thing I was locking eyes with. This encounter pretty much changed my life. The presence of this creature is nothing but pure malice, evil, and predation. I'm convinced they are demonic. They go by many names. Crawler, Rake, Wendigo, Skinwalker, Fleshgait, Jinn, Ghoul, Banshee. Crawler is the lamest name, but probably the best as it's free from the connotations of the others.
Fleshgait Storytime. This isn't one of the formulaic Innawoods friend place. This isn't action-packed. It's just got a little bit of info that you should all be aware of. Late yesterday, go to get a drink. Look out the window in the kitchen. My kitchen has a wall of glass that overlooks the bush reserve behind the house, which is why I saw this. See an old man standing with a pitchfork. This isn't odd in itself. A bunch of people have got together to try and clear the bushland to make a bike track, and others are there undoing that work because you shouldn't destroy the bush. So there's almost always someone dicking around with a shovel or something. The weird part is, this old man was staring straight at me. I wave and smile. He does the same, but as you'd expect, it looks wrong, like it was his first time. Whatever. Come back to the kitchen a little while later. Look out the window, standing in the same spot, looking at me, using the pitchfork in a shoveling motion, not actually shoveling anything. I go outside, stand at the back fence, and ask if he needs a hand. Smile and wave combo again. I don't assume he's a Fleshgait, just that he has severe Alzheimer's or whatever. Keep asking questions like, does anyone know you're here? Where do you live? Do you have any relatives I can call? No response. Well, I better go and make sure the old boy is okay. I can't just leave him here. In the time it takes me to go out the side gate and around, he's moved deeper into the bushland and is standing on the edge of the ravine. Keep calling and asking if he's all right. As I get closer, he steps back. Go to the edge and look down. Standing calmly at the bottom of a rocky, steep, dangerous 20-foot drop is old mate, shoveling nothing again. Nope, back inside because no one could fall down that and be unharmed. So, yeah. They aren't just in the woods anymore. It seems like they're encroaching on suburban areas, pick-related, where he was in relation to the window view.
Now, here is my personal encounter with a skinwalker. I'm a junior year high school student living in the American Northeast. Me and 3 friends decided to meet in the private reservoir woods. The area of the forest we meet in is not deep, only about 500 to 750 feet from houses. In the middle of our session, we see a phone light approaching us from very far away. To avoid an altercation, getting caught smoking on private property, we begin rushing to clean up and leave. As we're cleaning, we see the light is approaching us very fast. We begin walking fast as the light comes closer, and we can hear loud footsteps. Our walk turns into a jog as the footsteps get louder, and the light encapsulates more of our vision. I remember it felt like the person was right behind us. Imagine somebody breathing down your neck. When we finally reach the edge of the forest, the light simply stops. There is no longer a person behind us. Everything returns to normalcy, quiet and dark. My friends immediately shrug off the experience. Seemingly not worried, they get in their cars, and we all leave. At the time, I was not as scared as I should have been. I didn't realize what was hunting us. Now, knowing what I know, I will never again enter the woods at night. During the nighttime, it seems that skinwalkers emerge to prey upon human fear.
Might be a regional thing, but from where I'm from, what you described sounds more like a Fleshgait, although there might be some differences. I've never heard of the cattle mutilation part, but they do often kill dogs to intimidate locals into trying to leave. I have a story related. Be hillbilly kid. Late at night in summer, hot as balls. I decided I'm going to go down to the creek and drink a few stolen beers. As I'm sneaking out of the front door, I noticed that the 2 dogs we owned were missing from the porch. Usually, they'd sleep right by the door. One was a border collie named Gordy, the other a mutt with some bit of golden retriever in him named Carrot because of how his fur was a bit orange. Immediately get the feeling that something's up and I should try and find the dogs. Head off the porch, call out for the dogs. Only hear crickets. Get closer to the edge of the property and call out into the woods a bit louder. Hear some frantic barking and howling as I see Carrot running back to me. He's fine, a little dirty, but that's it. Call out for Gordy. Crickets stop chirping. It's important to note where I live. The crickets at night never stop chirping. That shit is deafening. Immediately feel my heart take a plunge into my stomach. Hear a few messed up barks from the woods. Sounds like someone trying to imitate a barking sound while also playing it through a speaker. Nope, back into my house. Next morning, wake up at about 6 because I'm a light sleeper. Go downstairs to make myself some fried eggs for breakfast. Front door has a large window built into it, so you can get a really good view of the porch. Gordy's body was laying right outside the door. Carrot was inside, by the way. Looks like he got caught in a combine harvester. Nope, wad. Call to my dad. Get the whole family woken up. No one knows what happened, but my dad buried Gordy behind the house. Later that night, finds her grave dug up, with blood leading out into the woods.
As a teen, I just refused to sleep at normal hours, especially on weekends. Why? Well, that's because the house I lived in and the land the house was on was haunted as *T. Staying up usually meant seeing some freaky activity and growing up in a small English town in Berkshire. Well, that's as exciting as life got. So one night when I was around 14, I was staying up staring out my window when I started seeing glowing blue and purple lights coming from the forest behind my house. We don't have fireflies where I lived. I thought they were cool, so I just continued staring at them, trying to figure out what they were. Now the way my house was set up, my bedroom window faced the forest and my back garden, and directly next to my room is a side gate that links to the front part of the house. On either side of the gates are motion sensor lights, so the lights in the forest may not have been paranormal, but what happened next most definitely was. The motion at the front of the gate triggers, casting a faint light into my garden. The night grows really silent, with no more owls or crickets and just really eerie. The lights in the forest came to ebb and then just died out. I listen carefully as I start to hear scuttling on the wood of the gate. It's muffled, so I slightly crack open my window to get a better look and listen. Now that gate is always locked, with a heavy padlock at that. To this day I have asked my dad if he ever left the gate unlocked that night, and he stands by the fact that unless he's gardening, the gate stays closed. This was spring, so he might have started seeding. So for my own comfort of mind, I'm going to assume he left the gate open. Anyways, I hear the gate slowly swing open. The creaks of the wood were so loud against the silent night, so the sound was very distinctive. The motion light right underneath my bedroom window switches on. Honestly, to this day I really can't explain what I saw. It was this off-white, veiny kind of skin texture, and was about the size of a child. It walked on all fours and looked just sickly. Its hind legs were significantly longer than its front legs, and it looked to have hand claws. I hate having to link back to creepypasta, but it honestly looked like the Rake. Now I've gone through the possibilities in my head. Trust me, it was too small to be the deer that frequented our garden. Also, it had no remote deer-like features. A badger or fox with a disease is possible. However, I've never seen badgers or foxes with such long limbs and so disproportionate. Also, this thing was completely hairless and human-like. The worst part about it to me was how it slowly and silently moved up my garden path before disappearing into the woods. The noises of the night started back up after that, but I was so shook that I didn't sleep that entire night. I'm from England, so I haven't heard of any folklore that matches what I saw. I know there were occult practices done in the woods behind my house, but I'm pretty sure it was pagan, hence not inherently bad or demonic. I don't know what I saw.
Be me. Work at fast food restaurant. Work at the front counter one night. Dude comes in and makes a pretty small order that comes up to about $20 or even less. Pays with a $100 bill. Get the manager to see if it's real. But something is off about the customer. Guy is very monotone, like he hasn't spoken the English language until fairly recently. His accent is just not normal and very thick. Seemed to be very poor at communicating and pointed at the pictures on the screens and by numbers, not as a number 1 or number 2 meal, but as a 1 or a 2 instead. Overall, he was just very creepy. He also walked with an odd limp, like he had only begun learning to walk. Ask him if he was hurt, explicitly mention his limp. Limp? Asks like he's never even heard of the goddamn word. He holds the bagged up food in the most unnatural fashion, like he's learning how to hold a bag and walks out asking the limp question again. You weren't the only one who was freaked out by that guy, were you? I asked my manager. I try not to think of it. Weird shit happens around this store or not anon. TLDR. A possible skinwalker or fleshgait or shapeshifter came into my workplace and ordered food, all while failing to pass as human. Still dunno where one of those things could even get a $100 bill from.
Or he was just high on drugs.
Hello, I just want to start off by saying that I am of no means good at words or writing things down. I'm quite an oldish man now that I'm 47, and for many, many years I have done my service to my people, the Wet'suwet'en of northern British Columbia, for decades. I have kept an eye out for these things that you call a skinwalker, and learn as much as I can about them, though. We have no word for them in that way, I get that in this day. And age, it may be silly to think that there are real, but for many, many generations to my people it has been a very real threat, although mostly unknown, because it's better the youth doesn't know we know how children can get. But there are a few of us who know, including my nephew, who is the one who pointed me towards this place. He encouraged me to come here and share my experiences that I've gathered over the years. And I'll start off by the first time I ever found out about these things. I was still a young man many years ago when I was with my father trapping on Lake Babine. It was during the winter, so the most of the lake was frozen over, and due to some setbacks, we were walking back from the trap line in the dark across the ice, and we had been using this path on the ice for days. By this time, I do not know how long we were walking for, before my father stopped in front of me, turned to me, and told me to no matter what, keep walking forward. Do not acknowledge it. Do not move if it moves. Just keep walking. I do not know what he meant at first, but when we kept walking, I noticed what looked like a snowbank on the ice. I was confused at first while looking at it, but as we got closer, I realized that it looked like a person. Sitting hunched over cross-legged, I became more and more confused and fearful as we got closer, and it got larger and larger. By the time we were about to pass it, it was massive. It was sitting down, but it was nearly as tall as me standing. And as we passed it, I saw out of the corner of my eye. I think it reached for us, or raised its hand. Whatever happened, I wanted to run in terror and fear, but I remember what my father said and the urgency in his voice when he told me to do so. I gritted my teeth and bit my tongue and kept walking, and from then on, it didn't grab us, it didn't get up and run. It sat in place there as we walked by in silence and in the dark. I asked my father almost every day about those things. He would get angry until he told me what he knew about them, and he told me the dangers and how they're more of a legend now, but acknowledging them can still be dangerous. Since then, I've been looking, searching for them, seeking signs and clues, and they are very, very uncommon in and around towns or cities, but they occasionally come when food is scarce, and the few signs they leave can be mistaken for a mountain lion. I've also only seen them once from a good distance, but the sight alone is a terrifying thing to experience, especially when you know it's seeing you too.
Be Fleshgait, crawling around my woods by myself. That feel when, no friends. Hear a bang, fast crawl over there. See some guy looking at something in a clearing. I think this is my chance to make a friend. Run up to the tree line. He sees me. We are just staring at each other. Oh shit, this is awkward. Try to act normal and contain autism. Try to say something, that's what people do. I don't talk much, so all that comes is a weird hissing noise. The guy is terrified and starts backing away. Realize I'm still on all fours. He must think I'm some monster. Stand up like a person. Guy looks even more scared. Guy fucking legs it. Feels bad. Forever alone. Go see what he was looking at. My face went free deer.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.